In Ohio, it is a guilty verdict for a former high school gym teacher charged with
a 51-year-old Manteca teacher is now under arrest for unlawful sex with a minor, and Manteca police say that minor
Pasco County teachers say of having sex with those two.
A Treasure Coast math teacher, a soccer coach, accused of sexual assault with at least 2 students. The St. Lucie County.
Today, a Polk County teacher accused of having sex with her 17-year-old student.
I'm here at Anclote High School, where the sheriff's office tells us a teacher was caught texting and Facebook.
According to court documents, Vera had sex almost daily with her student for 9 months. She became pregnant by the 8th grader.
Now, the 2 teachers invited the male student to their home after a football game last month. All right, and now, according to police, the English teachers then had sex with the student until the, quote, early morning hours.
Damn. As parents, we place our trust in teachers to make sure our kids are safe, and lately things have been putting that trust to the test. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of the Typical Daddy podcast. Today's discussion will be centered around the growing trend of teachers having sex with students. My name is Hector, father of 2 girls, and I'm joined by the rest of the Typical Daddy crew.
This is Henry, father of 2, a boy and a girl.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Edward. I have no kids.
I am Naresh, and I'm father of 2.
This is Sergio, future father of twins.
All right, guys. Do any of you remember having a crush on any of your teachers while you were growing up?
Does it matter what age I was?
No, it doesn't matter. I did.
Ooh, so
yes.
I was like 8 years old in elementary, and I kind of had a little crush on a teacher.
Give the name.
I can't do that, man. It's Miss Elementary.
For legal reasons, we're going to redact the names of anybody mentioned here during this live broadcast.
So you have to make up the name then, Ed.
Miss Smith.
Mrs. Hot Legs.
No, I mean
Mrs. Wood.
I had plenty of not plenty, my God. like I say that like there was a whole bunch of.
I was
hot
held
teachers,
back
right?
multiple times.
I was a hornball and my hormones were raging.
What were you in kinder?
No, I was in elementary, but I mean it was just like I said, I don't even know if it was really a crush. I just I didn't know it at the time. I guess you could say that, but
no, dude. Hey, I remember being in school, and then I saw the teacher, and I was like, "Wow, she's amazing." So I slipped my hand down my diaper, and no, I'm messing with you guys. All my teachers were old hags, man. It was like, ew. So okay, well, let me ask this then. I asked if any of you guys were interested, but have any of you slept with any of your teachers?
Not me.
No.
Nope.
No, that's a no for everybody. Okay. All right.
No.
Okay, so we're talking today about the teachers having sex with the students, and listening to talk radio. There's a lot of reports now having teachers sleeping with students, and it seems like it's almost a daily occurrence. So much so that one of the local talk shows here is actually has a segment called "Diddlin' with Teachers" or something like that. So have you guys heard of the latest report that I heard was of the student that actually extorted his teacher out of $20-something thousand. And so he basically threatened to go public with the information if the teacher didn't pay him. So I think she paid him for a few months.
And keep sleeping with him.
So he got the best of both worlds. I say that guy's a future entrepreneur.
That or a future sleazebag.
So is that guy is 16 and the teacher is, let's say, like 24 or 23, whatever it is. So is that still the court is going to consider teacher as guilty?
It depends on state by state, but I know in our state, it doesn't matter what age the student is, but as long as it's a student-teacher relationship, it's no bueno.
It's an ethics thing, right?
Yeah, it's a no good thing. Yeah, it's an ethics thing.
Hector, do you have any background on that story? Like any details specific to what he was was he just extorting her for money? And was, because I think I heard or read something about that, and was he, So he was sleeping with the teacher, forced the teacher pretty much to continue sleeping with him, or else he would report her to the authorities. How did they eventually get caught?
I think he was just bragging.
That sounds like blackmail.
Bragging?
Well, it is blackmail.
I guess they take the more, the worst of the two crimes and just focus on that.
Yeah, so it looks like the mother caught them. She found some messages in his phone, I believe. So smart as he was for extorting the teacher, he couldn't get past his mother prying.
That's a shame.
And the guy started to be a big spender. Apparently, his mother noticed also that he was suddenly spending a lot of money.
Oh yeah, I heard that he would go away for the weekend,
come back with a whole bunch of M&Ms and Snickers bars.
Yeah, he would just take off, and his mom was like, "I don't know where you went."
Wow.
Parent of the year.
How old was the kid?
I believe 16. He was 16. Yeah, I believe so.
16. So that's what, a sophomore, junior?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So the guy in January of 2016 was demanding money, and this is quote, "Ain't be sing, watch, I'ma start getting the pics and everything ready to show the cops, right? I ain't playing." That was the text he sent her.
Well, apparently
That's
she
genius.
wasn't an English teacher.
Or smart.
Yeah, so from this article here that I'm reading, it says the police say the teacher paid the teen about $28,000. The family says the boy would use the money for alcohol and drugs, and his mother went to the principal.
Jeez.
So it seems like this is more and more common, or is it just that media is now bringing it out?
So, I was thinking about that. And is it really now more prevalent, or is it happening more often, or like Sergio said, is it media? And I honestly think that this has gone on forever. Since the beginning, since the beginning of time when there was students and there were teachers, I believe this has been going on. And my theory is actually that because of social media and because of the way our society seems to be jockeying all the time for attention, right? Like, look at me on social media. Look, I'm in Hawaii. Look, I got a new car, and oh, look how much fun I'm having at this restaurant, and whatever, I'm doing shots off belly buttons. Look at me. It's like sensationalism. Everybody wants to one up everybody, right? Well, I think that type of online behavior has actually transitioned to offline behavior, to where these guys are bragging to each other now, and it's like, I want to one up you in person, and I'm going to tell you, hey, I'm banging this teacher, or hey, I'm hooking up with this person.
Now, one upping has always been there. It's just there wasn't always a social media to voice your message to many people, or for you to blab on someone else that way.
Yeah, it was more gossip back then. So you would say, "Oh, I heard so and so," and it spread, but it was probably localized, and it didn't spread the way it spreads now, where all you need is one person that has thousands of followers. You just retweet that, and it's gone. It's out.
Yeah, like it can start in New York, and then less than a minute it's in California. So
yeah, it's probably
so. Just to get the facts correct, the lady was not 23; she was a 30-year-old teacher. And so if anybody's interested in checking out the article, the title of the article is "Teen Allegedly Extorts Thousands of Dollars from Teacher He Was Having Sex With."
Now, Hector, was that the one that had a husband and kids, or?
The article doesn't state that. It just states that she was from Dallas and that she was 30 years old.
So there's two behaviors that I see online and through social media, and it's bragging and hating, right? There's a bunch of haters and there's a bunch of braggers. So what I see is, when I say that it goes offline, these behaviors, it's that now I'm bragging, right, in person to you that, hey, I slept with this teacher. And some of these guys, I say they're haters. And the reason that I come to this conclusion is because, what was it? The Professional.net, who had they listed the 50 teachers. Out of all those synopses that they gave between those 50 teachers, the majority of them had, I'm going to say, I think it was 80% of those on there, when they talked about how they got busted, it was one of two reasons. Reason one was the student was too stupid, right? And they left the material out somewhere and the parents found it. Or two, they were snitched on by somebody else. So how does snitching happen, right? It's not like I was in the room and I saw these people having sex and I snitched about it. It's because I heard Edward bragging to Sergio that he was banging this teacher and it wasn't me, and I wanted it to be me. So I'm going to snitch on him because I don't like him because I'm a hater. That's what I see.
Oh, I agree. I think that's probably happened many times in that scenario. You know, just hey, hey, check out what I'm doing, and I'm banging this bitch.
Classy.
Is that what you guys call it in the hood?
Well, that's what I would say if I was 17.
Is that the technical vernacular?
16, 15.
I was engaging in some extracurricular activities. No, but see, I also have a completely different theory on how this is happening, right? Because all we've been talking about now is the actual act, right? It's happening. Teachers are sleeping with students. And how are we finding out about it? And those were the two reasons how we're finding out about it. Well, why is it even happening in the first place, right? Because I think this has been going on forever. And is it because of social media that it's this type of behavior that students are having and they're bragging about it and they're getting busted and they have it out on their devices and their parents find it and that they're getting busted for it? But why is it happening? Why do students want to sleep with their teachers?
Do you think teachers hold some kind of authority figurative power and so they want to be a part of that?
They want to be dominated?
Do they want to at all? Are the teachers manipulating them?
Right.
One angle that we need to consider here is when you hear of sexual predator, immediately you think guy. He's a sexual predator.
Cochino.
Right? Yeah. You know, you hear those, what was that?
It's a double standard.
Chris Hansen, the To Catch a Predator, remember?
Hi, this is Chris Hansen. Why don't you take a seat? Take a seat.
Yes,
right there.
exactly. That was greatness.
Okay.
99% of the time, I don't even think I ever saw a woman, but from what I saw, it was all males showing up, right? One of the things that we need to think about is, are women sexual predators? And is there a double standard there? And if we would have been talking about this as males doing this to female students, the angle would be a little different.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as comedic.
We would say, this guy's sick. You know, what is he doing? How is he manipulating these girls? There's no way that they would want to have sex with, you know, an older man or whatever the case is, or teacher. So there's some of those things that are in play here. And I think because it's becoming more prevalent now, the discussion needs to happen about teasing out, you know, what the problem is. Right now, all we're seeing is
teasing.
Well, we're seeing the symptoms of the problem. So, and people are saying, well, you know, it's the teacher-student relationship. Is it the age gap that's the problem? Is it that they're minors? What is the true issue here? Do we have a problem now where females have been sexual predators all along, but because of social media, it's now really being exposed, the volume? You hear this and it gets localized. You hear of the 5 or 10 incidents as you're growing up. Hey, did you hear about this? And you probably think, the guy's lying. He never slept with the teacher, because that's kind of a bragging thing for the guy, right? But when you hear it in isolation where the numbers are really low, it doesn't seem like it's a problem. It seems more of from a guy's perspective, yeah, good job, that guy's badass, he did it, whatever. But now is it becoming more popular, or not popular, but more exposed? Is it really a problem? Should something be done looking into this?
Let me jump on what you just said right there, Hector, at the end. There was in that professional.net, they had a statement from one of the boys in there, and he had said that they had been trying to bang the teacher since middle school. So these are students who are actively going after a teacher, right? I mean,
yeah.
they want that notoriety. They want to be known as, I'm the guy that banged the teacher.
Well, they also have better exposure to porn now.
Let's expound on that, Edward, because you've just unlocked what I think is happening here. So I had to, take one for the team and explore this vast world of pornography, and
I know we had to twist your arm and pull your leg, and
it was
very
tough.
very difficult.
It was tough. Yeah.
It took all about 2 seconds to convince you, right?
In the online circles I travel, I've unlocked the mysteries of why teachers and students' relationships are coming to the forefront now. Okay, so get this. There are entire websites devoted to teacher-student relationships because it's a fantasy. So now that we have our hands more accessible to the internet, right? We can pull up pornography on our cell phones. We can pull it up anywhere. I mean, there's even issues with people pulling it up at work. Some dumbass at work the other day was looking at porn on one of those computers where people sign up for jobs. The human resource computer. He was looking at pornography on the computer.
Yes, in a major walkway, by the way.
In a major walkway.
Right next to the security guard desk.
So, I mean, it's accessible. So, these websites...
Wait, we got to flush that one out.
Yeah,
when he was addressed, when they caught him, he said he had a problem and that he needed to do that. So he didn't even deny it, try to hide it, try to close the browser or anything. The guy was genius. He's like, hey,
it's the company's fault
I have an
for
addiction.
not putting the firewall on that thing.
Okay, go ahead, Henry. I'm sorry.
Right, yeah.
I had to flush that one out.
All right, yeah. So these online websites, bookwormbitches.com.
Yes. Genius titles.
Big tits at school.com.
Now that goes the other way most of the time, right? It always used to be you'd see the male teacher with the female student, right?
Say that again.
The school, like in porn, it would be a guy teacher with girl in a school uniform, right? That's what you would primarily see, the fantasy. But now you're getting the teacher, the woman teacher in there with the guy student, right?
Yep.
So those are just, it's a fantasy, and then people are, again, I'm not going to get caught.
Like, so for example, some of the names of the scenes that they have in this one, it's a Big Tits at School, right? Learning the hard way, romance languages, washing her mouth out with... Okay, never mind. Okay, Skyla hates studying.
Ooh.
Right, those are the scenes. So,
Bad girl.
But what I'm trying to say is, and I was actually talking to my wife about this because she caught me doing research, and so I had to kind of tell her what was going on. So when I was explaining to her, not why I was enjoying it, but why I think pornography has a direct link with this this like outbreak of students and teacher relationships, is because when we see things that inspire us, we want to do them. And the analogy I gave my wife is, when I used to be a fan of Lance Armstrong, I saw him ride his bike and I wanted to be like him, not because of the whole cancer story, but because here was this guy who was like overcoming odds in a race to win. I wanted to do that. I saw Black Hawk Down. I wanted to join the military. I saw Moana. I wanted to go to Hawaii. So students are looking at pornography and they're seeing these scenarios laid out in front of them. They're seeing teachers are resisting and the students keep pushing and they're pushing, and finally the teacher gives in and they bang on the desk, right? These are like scene after scene. There's over 300 to 400 scenes in this one website. This is an example of something that students are looking at this and they're thinking, I wonder if I can do that. And what's going to happen to me? When was the last time you read a story or heard a story online or in the news where a student was busted for sexual assault of a teacher?
Yeah,
you don't?
No.
You don't?
No, because we're supposed to be... Well, the adults are supposed to be adults and the kids are supposed to be naive, right? Or whatever,
well, and what's going to happen? I was thinking, in reality, what happens if a teacher comes on to a student? What's the worst that's going to happen to that student? He'll go to an alternative school? He's not going to jail, right?
Well, you bring up a good point, because there's something that I think I've never thought of, and reading an article in Psychology Today brought this up, and I really wanted to understand, is there any damage psychologically or physically to the male in this scenario where the female is the teacher? And some of the things that need to be discussed are sexually transmitted diseases. If she's fooling around and now this kid is messing around, has no clue about condoms or anything like that, and he's messing around with his teacher and he gets diseases from her. He also, if she gets pregnant, now he becomes a father. So there's been a few instances. We even heard it on the intro. There's instances where the males are getting the females pregnant, and they're having to deal with those consequences. And so, the psychologist here in this article says that as the teenager matures and realizes what he did was wrong, that there's feelings of shame and things of that nature. I'm not too sure about the feelings of shame. I think the feelings of shame will probably be there if the kid was manipulated into doing something that he didn't truly want to do. So it would be kind of a quid pro quo where the teacher would come on to him and say, if you let me do this to you, then I'll give you a better grade, or I'll make sure that you pass the test, or things like that. So then it becomes a sexual harassment or power of that type. So the article that I'm referencing it's in the website psychologytoday.com, and the article is Female Teachers as Sexual Predators, the Double Standard Remains. And I think that's something that it's probably going to come to light here in the coming years, where we're looking at the teachers and understanding if this is truly a sexual predator situation that we're dealing with, or if it's nothing more than females wanting attention, and there's males hitting their puberty stage and the hormones are raging, and it's basically fishing with dynamite, baby. It's fishing with dynamite.
So that's from a psychology journal?
Yeah, the article is discussing kind of the psychological perspective of the interaction of a teacher having sex, of a female teacher specifically having sex with a male student, and that there's a double standard. And we've kind of mentioned that already, that it's kind of different if our male kid is having sex with a female teacher, or our female kid is having a sex with a male teacher. And so we should probably talk about what that means to us and what it feels like, or what we think we're going to go through if this were to happen to us and to our kids.
Before you proceed, Hector, on the same related to psychology lines, I have actually one question. We are just discussing about the affected teacher and the student. But if you take a class of let's say 20 kids, and one boy or one girl who is probably involved in this, but if you take the other 19 kids in the classroom, how you think they are affected psychologically? Because let's say if they are probably in their teens, whatever the age, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, but one guy is or one girl is actually involved in that, but other 19 people are really not involved in that. But still psychologically, what kind of effect they have to go through, and how their grades and their career and everything will be affected.
I think the impact is minimal on the rest, unless somebody in that classroom has a crush on the student that's having the affair with the teacher. The other thing is students that want to manipulate or extort the teacher, and they have that information, they may be manipulating the teacher to get grades. So they try to take advantage of the situation. So I don't know if it's a more psychological damage than giving them the opportunity to cheat and things like that.
Okay, but let me just, I'm just talking about when I was a teenager, nothing like this happened many years ago. But let's say if one kid is not really with the teacher, but let's say with other girl, or trying to do some kind of trying to maintain a relationship, he just wanted to show off to other kids and say hey, I did this. And then obviously all the other kids, they probably stop studying and then talking to this guy every day, 2-3 hours. Hey, what did you do last night? Where did you go? Did you hang out with that girl or not? Something like that. So I'm kind of expecting even if the kids are maintaining the relationship with the teacher, probably they want to discuss with at least their friends, and then they are going to discuss with their friends. Somehow it's going to spread throughout the class, and probably it's going to disturb their studies and career.
Yeah, I think
this,
we kind of mentioned this, that it spreads locally, right, through word of mouth and things like that. But from what I've seen in the articles that I've read, typically the student that's engaged in the relationship with the teacher has an agreement with the teacher, at least initially, to not talk about it. Because if they talk about it, again, the teacher's in the position of power, And so if the teacher is manipulating the situation and they want that to continue, the less people that know about it, the better, and the longer that it will continue. So I don't think that's really a big deal. It only becomes a big deal like in the scenario that I gave in the example. The mother found out about it, right? And she began the process, and then the news got a hold of it, sent out a tweet, and then everybody got a hold of it. And so I don't think the psychological impact to those around them is great.
I'd
my
object,
opinion.
Your Honor. I think for me, it would be great, Naresh, and this is why. Because, hey, I'm just as horny as the guy next to me that's banging the teacher, and why won't the teacher bang me? Is it because I smell? Is it because my wiener's too small? So I would feel inadequate, and I'm going to, if I have low self-esteem, it might drive me to commit suicide because no one wants to sleep with me.
Henry,
Right.
All you need to do is look in the mirror. You're fucking ugly, okay? Nobody wants to sleep with you.
Oh, yeah? Because if I look at my hand does.
Myra and her 5 fingers.
Oh, yeah, all sisters.
Yeah, so that
Hector.
situation, in the situation to just to reply to Henry and tell him that he's wrong. No, I'm kidding. But the perspective there, Henry, is that it's not what I would think is not specifically the teacher that would cause that issue. If that person had issues, they would look for any reason to feel that way, to get depressed, any situation. I listened to a podcast recently where this guy, he was so lonely. He was 21 years old. He was so lonely, and he couldn't understand why none of the females were attracted to him. And he had weird behaviors. It's just one of those people that they're outcast because they're kind of awkward in the way they behave.
So
And so
pick
people
their
would
nose and eat it.
more awkward. Like they don't know how to converse with people. They if let's say you and I were in a conversation, and then he would come over and just stand there and stare.
Oh, like Ed?
Yeah, something like that, but less creepy.
And
so
socially awkward.
As I recall, you love it.
But this guy, he would record himself so he could have conversations with himself, and he would consistently say in these video recordings, "Why don't you girls love me? Look at me. I'm great looking. I'm awesome. I'm friendly. And I hate every couple that I see." Eventually, he ended up going on a murder spree.
Weird.
And he posted on YouTube saying that this is going to be my last post. Tonight I'm going to go into a sorority and I'm going to kill all the girls in there because my life sucks and nobody gave me attention. He went and did that, and luckily nobody opened the door at the sorority, but he went on a killing spree, and I think he killed 3 people and wounded like 7 or 8, and then shot himself in the head in his vehicle. And so
all dark, man.
This guy, the point is the mental issues, they're not going to be caused by one thing or another. It's probably accumulation of things. So the impact from the teacher having sex and them feeling like an outcast is probably minimal.
Well, that was like far. I was just talking about feeling bad because I want to bang too. They're leaving me out.
Well, yeah, there's that too.
And
Hey, wait, no, you brought up the suicide
well,
thing.
no.
Yeah,
What
so we'll go ahead and just edit that part out.
Well, what if actually it brings out the bad part in someone, right? Because it's like, hey, I want to participate in this, and then the student thinks, well, maybe if I extort the teacher, I can participate too.
Yes, I believe there's articles out there where there's multiple students having sex with one teacher. So that has happened as well. Yeah.
Please stay tuned for this public service announcement.
Typical Daddy presents Raising Kids in a Nutshell. Advice for Fathers. When raising boys, don't allow prolonged exploration of the PP and coin purse. Prolonged exploration may lead to inappropriately concluding these body parts are toys. This may lead to excessive play with said toys and may result in a parent-teacher conference after Junior surprises a class during show and tell. This has been a Typical Daddy Raising Kids in a Nutshell moment.
how would you talk to your kids about that?
Wait, our son or our daughters?
Both. Would you
high
talk
five
to,
and sit down? We got to talk.
Okay,
Naresh
hold on.
and Henry have hot sons, so I don't have any sons, so they could
say
probably
hot sons.
Probably. They could provide that perspective.
Question. Here's the other question that goes along with your question, Sergio, is not only how do you talk to your kids about it, but what age do you start bringing that situation up? I know right now we're really focusing more on the female teacher guy student scenario, but again, there's also the other side of it. I don't know what do you know the sex of your twins yet, Serge?
Yeah, it's one boy, one girl.
So all three of you gonna have a girl, growing up in the schooling system, of course, right? You're not gonna homeschool her, well, at least I don't think.
That's a topic for another podcast.
Yeah. Right. First of all, when do you start talking to them? And then secondly, how would you communicate it with them at this time?
Let's take the first question. At what age do we think as fathers, and Sergio, as you listen to what we think, kind of give us your input on what you think our answers are.
Right. And real quick, right before y'all start, now also take into consideration that women and girls also have the same access to the same porn sites as little boys and teenage boys too. So where is that also hindering their thought process on all of this, thinking that it may be alright, may not be alright? Is it socially acceptable? I see it happening all the time. It looks to be fun, blah blah blah. So there's a two-way part to that, that we are scared to talk about because it could also think that we are.
I can't even imagine, Edward, how much pornography I'm going to have to look at in order to figure this out.
And you're really dreading the task, aren't you?
Yeah.
But now you got to watch it as a girl's point of view.
I have strong opinions about my teaching my daughter things and putting them in scenarios that give me opportunities to teach them. So I want to hear from Henry and Naresh first. On what age do you think it's appropriate to start discussing these issues with your if it's a different age for your son, then what is that and versus your daughter? Because both of you have a boy and a girl, right?
Yeah. Naresh, you want to go first, man?
Yeah,
okay.
I can go.
Then go, baby,
basically,
go.
The culture I'm from, probably, if I follow the same thing, I may not discuss with either my son or daughter probably throughout my life.
Really?
Because really, I mean, we expect them to know the things naturally. I don't know like how they are going to know, but I'm not going to discuss, if at least like for now I haven't decided whether I'm going to discuss or not. But only thing I can say is like, hey, I can't directly talk, but I can just say like, hey, be careful, don't talk to them, don't do these things. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to directly say like, okay, there like something is going on or the teachers are having sex with kids, be careful at school or something like that. I'm not going to discuss with either my daughter or son.
Would you discuss it with them if you say your son or your daughter says, "Dad, today the teacher touched me inappropriately"? Would at that point you discuss, or would you say, people just do that, forget about it?
No, at that point I'm going to take it really serious. But even at that point, I'm going to go and probably talk to teacher, and then I'm going to take the issue to whoever responsible authorities. Mm-hmm. But I'm kind of like, okay, I can't talk to my daughter. Like, okay, even if she comes back and tells her mother, and then probably she's going to tell me, and then I'm going to go back and talk to the teachers or the principal or whoever is the authorities. But I can't somehow, like, I can't talk to my son or daughter using those words. I don't know, based on my background.
Henry, what do you think?
Okay, so since I know my wife is listening, it's wrong. It's wrong.
It's wrong to talk about it, or
no,
at all.
No,
or?
It's the situation wrong. So talking about it,
Yeah,
I think
what
it's
age?
different. So at like my son right now, he's 15 months. So I think right now is a good time to have the talk, so that when
He doesn't remember anything?
he doesn't remember anything. So when my wife tells me, you were supposed to talk to him about this, I can say, I told him when he was 15 months old.
Listen to the podcast, Season 2.
Yeah,
Episode
listen to
1.
Season 2. I'm giving him my advice.
Checked off. It's
Yeah.
on the checklist. It's done.
You know, I hate to say it, but when I was a kid growing up, when I was in high school, when I was 16, Ed and I went to high school together. Do you remember that one teacher? I don't know her name. I never will. She was like I think she was like an instructor to an extracurricular activity, and she had really long hair. I think she was also like a Bud Light girl or something like that. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I do believe so.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I dreamt all I wanted about her. I mean, I actually dreamt in my dreams, women are sexual predators. But like
That was the fantasy.
That was the
That
fantasy.
was my hope.
I wanted that. Now, I know my parents didn't want that, but I did.
You never know. Maybe your dad would have said, "Go
Right?
get that grade, son."
Right? High five to my son. But
I was going to say, so how would you feel if your son had those same fantasies and started an affair with a teacher? Let's say
so the teacher's married?
At age 10.
Oh, the teacher's married?
10.
Married or not?
Okay, well, if the teacher's married, I have huge issues because ethically, I mean, come on.
That's where I draw the line.
She belongs to someone else. You get your hands off that. But if she's like single and my son is 16 or 17.
No, 10.
Okay, 10, that's a problem because he shouldn't be horny at age 10.
Okay,
So,
11?
Well, what are we at 11? 6th grade? Nope, shouldn't be horny at that
12?
age. 7th grade, not horny yet.
13?
Okay, maybe he's had a few boners by 8th grade.
I would say
but
into middle school, going into middle school, you need to prepare them.
We'll see. Yeah, you probably have to have the talk around middle school because in high school, that's where it hit me. My freshman year, because I went to private school. So grade school, and then when I hit public school for high school, oh my Lord. Girls everywhere, right? I mean, I grew up with the same 12 girls, 1st grade through 8th grade, the same 12 girls. When I hit high school, it was like 500 girls I had never seen in my life, and all of a sudden there's some boobs and there's butts, and actually I've never been a fan of the butts, but look at the boobs, and that's hard to control. And when you see a teacher, a mature teacher,
quick retrieve it.
Wearing like a low cut blouse and a skirt. I mean, come on. A kid's going to naturally want to do something like that. So yes, I will be upset that my son did that. But I think when he grows up and he's of age, as long as he's not mentally, you know what, Hector? I don't know. I got to retract because you're right. I'm thinking, what if this impacts him negatively, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or what if it helps his self-esteem? What if he's like, oh, I can do anything if I can do my teacher?
It could have been, but let's say he comes back and he's like, hey, Dad, I had sex with. He's 16, let's say.
Yeah.
And he comes to you and he says, I have been sleeping with my teacher or whatever. It's great and this and that. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, what are you doing, man? Why do you keep scratching yourself down there? Oh, let's go to the doctor and check it out. Well, your son's got gonorrhea or syphilis or something like that could potentially damage him for the rest of his life, and he's not able to reproduce
it's called,
or have
good
kids.
job, son.
Well, see, that's my fault for not teaching him about keeping his you got to wrap it in foil before checking her oil.
That's a good motto. I like that.
Yeah.
Don't they teach that in middle school?
They do. I think they do.
I think so, right?
But it's up to the parents, so.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, now
it shouldn't be at the teacher level.
Henry.
So for Ellie, would it be different?
Oh no!
I was gonna say, take that mind frame and flip it.
No,
at what age would be okay to talk to Ellie about that?
Is and always will be my little girl, and I'm hoping to establish a relationship with her that she tells me everything and trusts me, that she can tell me stuff and I can help her learn and grow. We talked about all this stuff in season 1. And I think I could have that talk with her probably before middle school, probably as soon as I think she's able. At what age do kids understand sexuality? Because that's the moment to introduce it, because that's when it's real. You don't want to talk about it before they don't, it means nothing to them. If they see people kissing right now, it's like, ew, cooties and stuff like that. It's when there is actual, but you have to be careful because you don't want them to become a sexual predator's prey, right? as soon as Eleanor is old enough, I mean, Ellie's 3 years old right now. And I'm going to be a helicopter parent. So I'm going to be going to her classes with her in middle school.
Peeking through the windows.
Yep.
Having surveillance drones fly. That's why you bought your drone, huh?
That's why I bought my drone, to keep
You're
an eye on my
flying it
girl.
outside the classroom.
You're forgetting that one thing. No matter how well of a communication is there between a parent and the kid, the kid is always gonna hide something from the parent,
and they will become the hacker.
You're like, no, you're so naive right now. Like, no, we're gonna talk about everything. No, she's gonna come to me about everything.
She's supposed to tell me. I trust her. She would never do that. Yeah, no, you're right.
Not my baby girl.
Not my baby girl. Yeah, how many baby girls did you defile in middle school? I mean, middle school.
Defile.
Nice choice of words there.
You took a shit on him?
You know what I mean? Like how many things that you did without. Again, we've talked about this in season 1, but how many things that you do without your parents knowing?
Yeah,
and it may not even be, okay. So even the scenario where a teacher might touch one of your kids inappropriately, they may feel like they let you down. And they're not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Hey, Ed, that's what dads do, actually. Dads, they kind of do it when they were young, but they do expect, like, all kinds of, trust and everything from their daughters and sons.
So that's a good segue into my perspective before we get Sergio's perspective on at what age it's appropriate. For me, I've always been a big proponent of trying to give my kids as many experiences as possible while they're living under my roof. Because my belief is once they leave the house at that point, or they become an adult and they start thinking for themselves, the opportunities become less and less to coach them, to give them guidance, and things of that nature. So for me, the sooner the better. Get it in as early as possible. I would love to have that trust with them and establish that. But part of that increasing the chances that you're going to have them talk to you is talking to them and treating them like another person and giving them the respect that maybe they will understand. Because truly, we'd never know at what point our kids completely comprehend. Some kids are faster than others. I mean, you can go into a psychology book and they can say, well, based on the studies, 90% of kids or 80% of kids start comprehending at X age. But your kid may be different. They may be advanced. They may be slow. So for me, don't take the chance. I would start immediately. Even today, I was preparing for the podcast and playing the intro for my daughter. And my daughter said, you said sex with teachers, didn't you? And I said, yes. And so I'm going to talk to her about it. That gave me an opportunity to sit down with her, and she's 7 years old, and say, look, these are some of the things. Teachers are going to try to do these things. You're a pretty girl. They're going to try to manipulate you. They're going to tell you nice things. They're going to do these things to try to get into a sexual situation with you. And right now, for her, sexual situations for her are basically people kissing, right? So that's what she knows. That's what she understands. So that's the context that I put it in. And then as her understanding grows as far as what is sexuality and sexual contact with somebody, then she's already got the base understanding of what that is, and we can elaborate more. And then hopefully at that point she starts coming to me with questions. But even if she doesn't, at least she's heard me talk about it, and she's prepared when the situation happens. We're being proactive instead of reactive.
I got questions.
Mm-hmm.
Me too, after you.
Okay, so if you had a boy, would your conversation be exactly the same?
I think the conversation would be different because of the issues that we've talked about now. Like, hey,
high five.
Yes. And understanding that, I was a boy, and I would start preparing him like diseases, taking care of yourself, doing those things. Because getting into that scenario, getting manipulated by a teacher, I mean, there's no way around it. The kid has to almost be prepared that somebody's going to do that to them, that they're going to violate the trust, because the kids put a lot of trust in their teachers that they're teaching them the correct things. And so when the teacher comes in and starts bridging that gap with the trust, and then starts to take advantage of it, the student thinks it's okay because the parents, hey, Dad, you're taking me to this teacher every day, 5 days a week, right? So you obviously trust the teacher.
You always tell your kids,
listen to your teachers. Yes, pay attention. Listen to your teachers. So you trust them. So I'm trusting you that you're putting me in great hands. And so my conversation would be slightly different, but the concept is the same. I would start earlier with him, or as early as possible, trying to get him exposed to something about it, and then hopefully the trust is established at that point, and then when he's ready, he can continue to talk about those things.
Okay, hang on. Let me tag on to that. So how do you explain sensations? And what I mean by that is, I remember this guy. His name, let's call him Tom, and he was telling us about his son, and he said, "Oh gosh, I was so nervous today, but at the same time, I was happy." Because my son and I were watching a movie, and there was a situation that happened on the television, and he stood up and he said, "Daddy, my pee-pee moved," and he said, "It did," and he says, "Yeah, and it feels really good." So, I mean, when your kid is young and they're put into a sexual situation, and you're pretty much, I'm trying to think of the way I raise my kids, and we try to keep them happy, right? You want them to be happy. You want them to have a good life. You want them to feel good. So when they start feeling physical sensations where like get a little boner, right? And Naresh, I don't know if you had this when you changed your son, but like when I change Henry's diapers and I start wiping around his little wee-wee, I mean, he gets boners and he likes it and he smiles and he starts grabbing it. So how do you?
Yeah, I see that too.
Yeah. So how do you how do you tell them something that might feel good is wrong?
It's not wrong. That's not wrong. So
well, what if the teacher's the one that gives them the sensation?
The sensation is not wrong, no matter where it's coming from, right? It's what's causing that sensation to happen. It's the situation. So in the scenario that you gave, I would be elated that would happen, because that's the talking point, right? That's the situation. Say, look, you're gonna the reason why your pee-pee reacted that way was because of this scenario, right? And say, look, you're attracted to women, or you're attracted to men, or whatever the case is, and explain that situation to them. But then I say, then I follow up with, okay, certain people can touch you down there and you have to be at a certain age, and that's where it becomes appropriate or not appropriate. And so you start that conversation at that point. So it starts to build like, okay, that's legitimate in their minds. Yeah. So because they know when somebody touches them. So I will give you an example. If the neighbor came over and just grabbed you right there, is that okay or not?
Wait, my neighbor?
The kid's neighbor. So I'm talking to my son,
okay.
right?
No, because my neighbor's
and then high. I say, if the guy comes over, or a girl comes over, or if your aunt and uncle come over and they touch you down there, is that appropriate? Because most of the people that do sexual,
so you're talking about the act.
The sensation has nothing to do with it, in my opinion. The sensation is right because the sensation is there in order for us to reproduce, right? To encourage us to reproduce. So that's not wrong. What's wrong is the situation that you're in during that situation, right? During that sensation.
Okay, so if he gets a boner when he's eating food, should I be worried?
No, I would be happy. Hey, based on my perspective, if I had a son, as soon as I saw the first boner, I'd be like, yeah, high five, whatever. That's great. Let's talk about it.
Let's eat more Cheetos.
I was like, let's talk about it. Look, Daddy's got one too. No, I'm kidding. That's a joke. So, okay, Naresh, you had some questions before we jump to Sergio.
Yeah, my question is actually, let's say like you told your daughter overheard like whatever you were trying to say about like sex with the teachers or something like that. And what if she kind of like grabs those 2 words or 1 or 2 words and then go to classroom and talk to the other kids, and somehow they all are curious about like, okay, what is really sex? And then they have like so much media and electronic devices around them, and now you know that they're gonna go to simply YouTube or Google or something like that, and then they type that word, and then 100 websites pop in, And what if they started watching all that stuff? Don't you think like you're introducing early all these things like when they are not needed?
Are you talking about the other kids typing in, or are you talking about my kid starts typing in?
Are you talking about bumping uglies?
Let's say like your kids.
Yeah.
So
again, perfect opportunity for me. I would welcome that situation. Well, first of all, on the websites, you should have your parent controls on there and finding out. So the chances of that happening are low. Now, if they're going to get it on a device that's somebody else's device,
or at school or something, or anywhere, let's say like library, they usually go like so many places nowadays.
Yeah, the library's going to block it because they don't allow those content,
No,
so they got firewall.
Let me tell you something, Hector. At our school, of course, in high school, Henry, we had computer class, right? And I would search and search until I found something. No, I would search any scenario until I found something. I was like, all right, look, check this out.
Farm animals with vagina.
Bestiality.
Not that far down. No.
What is flurries? What's flurry sex? No, first of all, when you were in school, that was like ancient times, and that was the infancy of computers where they didn't have rules and protect privacy and all those things implemented at that time.
They had proxies, and we were able to remove the proxies.
Yeah, the World Wide Web was wide open. Now there's a lot of controls and things like that for that scenario. But anyway, so let's assume that a kid's taking a phone to school. Some kids are doing that, and they have access to the internet, right? Because they're not on any Wi-Fi or anything, and they just through their whatever mobile carrier. In that scenario, I would welcome that and talk to them and give them the opportunity to discuss what was happening. And so for me as a parent, it's very important not to get upset at that situation, because I don't want to reprimand them for letting me know that something happened. So I want to encourage the discussion and keep talking, and then say, hey, well, did you know that that's inappropriate? And start telling them why this is inappropriate and have that discussion. From my lens and from my world and my perspective, everything that you said right there, Naresh, is an opportunity for me to teach my child. And the sooner that it happens, the better, because they're going to get exposed to it.
Okay, let's say like, because right now they're probably, they think like, I can't do this. My dad told me it's not appropriated. But let's say like they are 11 years, 12 years. And as you mentioned, like every kid is completely different. Let's say like our kids are little advanced. And they know like, if I tell it to my dad, I'm going to be in trouble. No, I know my dad's password. I know my dad's device. And I'm going to use it like when he's asleep or after I'm going to get up around the midnight and I'm going to take a device and do some browsing or do that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to tell anybody. What if a kid thinks in this kind of way?
So what about it? What about it? They do that. I mean, they're going to do it. They're going to do things that we don't agree with. So it's not about what they're going to do. For my mind, for me, is when that time happens, how much have I prepared them for those scenarios?
So you're not, let's say like if you are not in a situation to stop them or control them, still you wanted to go ahead and teach them as much as you can.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So I want to give them the tools to handle the situation. They're going to encounter the situations no matter what. No matter what you do as a parent, if you become a parent that starts locking down all your kids, then they're not going to experience anything. Right? So when they leave you and they become adults and they don't have your protection anymore, they're going to be in a whole world of shit. Because they're not going to have any experiences. And there's people that are going to take advantage of them. And when they're adults, it's a lot worse. I encourage them to try to break the rules, to bring it on, right? Your worst, right? I was a pretty bad kid, so I kind of know what those things entail. Some of those things I'm going to catch, some of them I'm not. But I'm not worried about the things they're going to do. I'm worried about, have I done my job as a parent to prepare them to make the best decision possible during those situations?
I think we could take that a different way, Hector, because is it the experiences that you put them through or the values and morals that you instill in them that lead them to conclusions, right? Because you don't have to get them into the scenario or the experience, like experience this, because if you teach your kids these values or these morals, they're going to make a thought process that says, I'm not going to choose this path when this experience approaches itself, or this situation, right? Because I instilled these values and morals. So that's just another angle I was thinking. It's not necessarily the sole experience. Could you agree to that?
Well, that's part of it, the values, but there's a saying, I think Mike Tyson had it, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. You can plan and instill all these values, and if the kid doesn't experience anything, once they get out into the real world, they're going to learn. We all have been told, don't do this, don't do that, and you're like, yeah, right, whatever. We think we know it all. And then we go and do it, and then we're like, oh, shit, they were right. But we don't say our parents are right until we're older and more mature, because we've experienced those things.
Yes, I agree with Hector actually, especially in their teens. They think like probably, okay, I know everything, okay, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, Dad, you don't know shit.
They're going to rebel.
You're old, yeah. Values and morals are words until you have a chance to express them. Okay, so experience wraps that up.
Are we also going to mention our favorite Mike Tyson quote? Because mine is, I'm going to fuck you till you love me.
Mm-hmm. I like that one. That was my favorite. Or I take my hand off to you. That one's one of my favorites. Okay, so Sergio, based on this discussion that we just heard, and what age do you think once you have your conversation with your wife to discuss these types of things about teachers having sex with students, at what age do you think you would come up with?
Well, for as long as I can remember, and even young, when my parents would drop me off at school, starting in elementary, I always remember my parents saying kind of like good touch, bad touch thing, that your teachers are to be trusted. They're people of authorities and they're there to protect you. But also, if there's anybody besides teacher or anything that touches you in a bad place, that you should tell the parent. I knew that every day, not every day, but a lot of the times when she was dropping me off at school, my mom would tell me, she would say, don't let anybody touch you in a bad place. You tell mom. So I always remember that. So a lot of the perspective.
Is that almost like stranger danger?
Yeah.
Good touch, bad touch.
Well,
kind of bad
now
touch,
I know
good
why.
touch.
Now I know why Sergio's mom never liked me. Because he told on me.
But I think if you teach them like at a young age, just the beginning of bad touch, good touch, that opens up, like Hector was saying, that opens up opportunities and maybe even questions when they learn something at school, maybe, or they see something.
Would the ages be different for you, for your son versus your daughter?
No, I would still tell them, because they would, now mind you, they're twins, so they would be both going to school at the same time.
Right, but would you say, let's say, for my son, I would talk to him when he's 5, but my daughter, I would wait until she's 8, that kind of deal. Is that something that you would consider?
I would. I would, but I believe in treating them equal. I know there's sometimes, maybe favorites or something like that, but I want them to learn, and protect each other, especially since they're going to be around the same age. I want them to look after each other. So
they're going to be around the same age, huh?
They're going to be around.
They're probably going to be beating up on each other, but
hopefully they'll be around the same age.
Right, hopefully.
Well, we're talking about physical age, right? Mental age, the girl's going to have it on the guy. So
right. They say
they develop a lot faster. Yes, absolutely.
But see, if you have twins, Sergio, I think twins have a special relationship with each other, right? They have a special bond, and they'll talk to each other and they trust each other. So I hate to go back to the little boner story, but what are you going to do if when your son talks about he had a little movement down there, and maybe he shares it with his sister who doesn't know because she has a completely different, anatomy down there. At that point, do you start to teach your son versus your daughter things, or do you teach them both at the same time, that there's a difference in their anatomy and sexuality? Or
right, I believe you would separate them out and not talk to them together at that point, and teach them the differences between a boy and a girl, and what's inappropriate. Teach them about the anatomy, but also not to be playing down there or showing, like a show and tell type thing. So, you need to welcome it though, but also teach your children maybe just the basics at first, and then as they get older, when they get into their 6, 8 years old, or even later at 10, 12 years old, you can talk to them about more. But definitely, with the fact that teachers being there to teach, and none of that should be going on.
I like that good touch, bad touch.
Yeah, you can even use a
Well, I think they need to go back hiring less attractive teachers. or you know what? How about this? How about don't wear anything skin tight or anything like that, or
no low cut, no cleavage,
like an all boys school, all girls school.
Well, even in public school, I mean, that's the teacher itself.
Teachers need a uniform.
Maybe
they enforce it on the kids.
Yeah, don't force it on the kids. Force it on the teachers.
On the teachers.
You make the teachers a complete turnoff, because when I was in high school, we went on a field trip to a prison. Why? I didn't go. My parents didn't let me go. But I remember the day before they were talking about how you dress, and they were telling the girls no makeup, no skirts, no blouses. You had to wear like baggy t-shirts and baggy pants so that you could seem very unattractive. You couldn't have your hair done. It had to be pulled back. So maybe that has something to do with it. Make the teachers not look attractive.
Ma'am, you have your master's degree. You're great. And that's really, we don't give a shit about that. Okay, you're fucking ugly, and we want to hire you.
Yeah, or you know what? Maybe teachers need to work their way up in school. So like, the younger you are, which makes you like, look. So you're young. This goes, so you're young. You're more attractive and this and that. Have them start in elementary with the kids and work their way up to middle school to high school.
That's not fair to the teacher though, right?
Even then, if we're taking the perspective that they're a sexual predator, would you do that with a male that's a sexual predator? Put them into younger kids where they can manipulate them more.
The key word is that's the angle, right?
Yeah, if that's the angle, that's right.
Yeah, because I don't think teachers are sexual predators. I think teenage boys are sexual predators.
Teachers that have sex with students are sexual predators.
Are they? Our society's labeling them that, but I say it's the students. It is the 17-year-old boy who is the sexual predator and making advances and forcing himself on the woman.
Okay. So let me ask you this: What about the 13-year-old boy that's getting hit on by a 28-year-old Bible teacher that was at a Bible camp?
The teacher's the adult.
Is that what happened to you when you had the possession that you had to?
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's like
it's not all scenarios. I think we generalize everything into the teacher is a sexual predator, and I don't think that's fair.
Right, but the teacher's the adult, though. She should know better. Or he should know better.
That's right. That's the one thing. They're not equals. So one of them has the power. So because of that, in my opinion, they know right from wrong. It's wrong. The school tells them it's wrong. As you're growing up, it tells them they're wrong. If they're doing that, then they're preying on those kids that cannot defend themselves. Now, whether or not the kid is complicit in that and they want to do it is another story. And that's going to do it for our show today. I would like to thank Shane Yoder and his team at PutThemInASong.com for providing the theme music. If you like the Typical Daddy podcast, please subscribe to show your support. If you have any questions or want to provide show ideas, please write to comments@TypicalDaddy.com. To find previous episodes, check out TypicalDaddy.com, iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The views and opinions of the crew are just that and are intended for entertainment purposes only. The Typical Daddy podcast was produced and edited by the Apchovy team. 2017, all rights reserved. Thank you for listening to the Typical Daddy podcast, and we'll talk to you soon.